Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 202 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about MicroStrategy. That will not be shocking. But in order to talk about MicroStrategy, I have to first talk about Bitcoin. And something I noticed recently about talking to normies about Bitcoin is like trying to order a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris. They got the metric system, they wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is. Uh, and then keeping on that theme, what do they call Ethereum in Paris? A shitcoin's a shitcoin, but they call it the shitcoin. Um, but that aside, Bitcoin is why I am bullish on MicroStrategy. And it's a little bit weird just talking to family and friends about it because I talked to, Bitcoin X, and everybody is kind of on the same page, or at least in the same sphere of reality. But trying to explain to people who are still in the system about something that is completely outside the system, it it is literally like trying to talk to somebody about a quarter pounder with cheese that uses the metric system. I think somebody said it was like, it might have been Jeff Booth, but he was talking about, Galileo with a telescope trying to explain to people who think that the sun revolves around the earth, and he's completely outside of their perception. And they can't get into his perception because they just can't see it the same way. And this is not financial advice, but if you're watching this and you first don't get Bitcoin, actually, I'm going to say Grok Bitcoin because I'm going to I'm going to include Grok in this video, then I don't see how you can really grok MicroStrategy. When I first started trading MicroStrategy, before I found QuantBros and the Irresponsibly Long MicroStrategy group, I just was like, oh, okay, this is like a leveraged Bitcoin. This would be like, I think they came out with that 1.5x MicroStrategy stock or something. And I just thought it was like that. MicroStrategy adds a bunch of Bitcoin. They keep adding it. You'll get some kind of trading multiple. Bitcoin goes up 1x. Maybe MicroStrategy goes up 1.5 or 1.2 or 2 times, whatever. And now that I see what a company can do when it's actually providing value, it sets the bar a little bit for what every company will have to do in the future in order to attract investors. Because all these zombie companies that have nothing to offer besides gaming the system with stock buybacks or offering dividends or any of that other happy horse shit, investors are just going to be able to see the difference. And so in the future, companies will actually have to just stand on the products that they provide. And it's not even necessarily MicroStrategy's business development software that at this point even needs to do much of anything except maybe generate a little bit of revenue that they can use to pay off, borrowing more money to buy Bitcoin. They've pretty much cemented their monopoly at this point. I don't know, Zuckerberg with his little flip flop on being the government puppet, maybe he'll jump in. But that doesn't even matter because either MicroStrategy is a monopoly on the Bitcoin development strategy and they're the only game in town, or they're joined by other companies that end up buying bags upon bags upon bags of Bitcoin, which would just pump MicroStrategy's bags, even though it's diluting them as being the only game in town. The other games in town are just basically pumping each other's bags. So talking to normies about Bitcoin is kind of brutal sometimes. And then the same thing happens trying to talk to some of these dividend investor accounts, TradFi accounts. They're constantly posting engagement posts. It's like, if you had $20,000 or if you had $100,000 or you won the lottery, like what would you pick? And what would be your number one stock? And I love how I see some of the other Irresponsibly Long members in there just dropping MSTR. And some of them are open-minded, or some of them might just be engagement farming, but some of them won't actually know why. And it's completely different from other companies. And I see that they have all these justifications about why Costco should keep going up forever, and frickin' Chipotle, and even everybody's sweetheart Nvidia, who who have their own competition risks and even invasion risks, for God's sake. So MicroStrategy has its own risks, but let's just cut to Grok real quick. So I decided to ask Grok, and this is me screwing around with the images, but I did not phrase this in a neutral manner. This was kind of for fun. I just wanted to see how Grok would react to this. But I asked Grok, why is MSTR the greatest stock in the history of the stock market? And Grok said, the notion that MSTR is considered by some as the greatest stock in the history of the stock market largely stems from its unique position in the investor landscape due to its significant holdings in Bitcoin. Here's why it garners such attention. Now, that kind of shocked me to begin with. I thought the very first thing out of Grok's mouth was going to be, not financial advice. Please don't, take this as gospel and do your own due diligence and all of that stuff. But Grok was like, I don't give a shit. I'll tell you what I think. And I kept getting a little bit surprised as I go down this. Bitcoin proxy. Okay, we already talked about that. Bitcoin is a proxy for Bitcoin. They hold substantial amounts. We knew that already. Performance. And this is something that QuantBros post all the time. And I don't know. I got to think that Grok is combing X first for information. And so they're saying that, since Bitcoin or MSTR adopt the Bitcoin's investment strategy, performance with other high-flying tech stocks during their peak moments like Tesla, due to similar dynamics of cult-like following, high short interest, and significant price volatility. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's something that QuantBros talk about all the time. Leverage and financial strategy. MicroStrategy has utilized financial leverage to increase its Bitcoin holdings by issuing debt or equity at what it perceives as undervalued prices, which Michael Saylor says he's buying the top forever. So I don't know. I guess he thinks that Bitcoin is undervalued forever. This strategy, while risky, has paid off handsomely during Bitcoin's upward trends, amplifying returns. Yeah, that can all go downhill in the bull cycle, but Short interests and squeezes. This one surprised the hell out of me because this is something that I had not heard until Jeff and Ryan started talking about it on QuantBros. But short interest in squeezers. So MSTR has attracted a notable short interest, partly because of its high correlation with Bitcoin's volatile price. This setup has occasionally led to short squeezes where the price of the stock rises rapidly as short sellers buy back shares to cover their positions, further fueling the stock's upward momentum. Grok has an ear. I don't know. I guess Grok watches QuantBros. I don't know. Visionary leadership. This is also concentration. I know he doesn't talk about concentration risk, but so Michael Saylor is saying he's visionary, et cetera, et cetera. This could also be a negative because there could be, key man risk or whatever. Index inclusion and accounting changes. I cannot believe that Grok knows that there's speculation about MSTR being included in the S&P 500. If I suspected that Grok watched QuantBros before, I know damn well he watches it now. I guess Grok is a he. I'm calling Grok a he. I didn't ask. Oh God. I'm definitely not asking Grok its pronouns. Not on camera. Maybe I'll do it when I click stop recording. But there's been speculation and discussion around MSTR potentially being included in major indices like the S&P 500, especially with changes in accounting standards for digital assets. Such an inclusion could significantly boost its stock price due to passive investment flows. This is kind of ridiculous that Grok is saying exactly what a bunch of us are saying, particularly those of us who watch QuantBros. Cultural and investment phenomenon. I guess this is going to just be like MSTR is a meme stock. Become more than just a stock. It's a cultural phenomenon with certain investment circles. Yeah, like the Irresponsibly Long MSTR group on X. The enthusiasm around it mirrors that of tech bubbles or gold rushes. Now, that's a little scary, calling it a tech bubble. Where the asset becomes as much about the community and belief in a new paradigm as it is about financial returns. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about trying to talk to normies about a new system. It's Bitcoin as an honest ledger should be considered strange because it's never existed in human history. So I guess I shouldn't fault normies too much for not grokking what's going down here. Okay, so this is where Grok's going to hedge his bets, I guess. However, calling MSTR the greatest stock in history is hyperbolic and reflects a specific viewpoint. Yeah, I am slightly biased. Likely held by Bitcoin maximalists, thank you very much, or those who have benefited from its price movements. Critics might argue volatility and risk. Absolutely reasonable. Concentration risk. It's yeah. MSTR is basically hitching it all on Bitcoin, so that's fair. And fundamentals. Okay, let's see what this is about. Traditional investors might question its business fundamentals beyond Bitcoin, especially given its operational losses in traditional business segments. Okay, that's fair. Before Bitcoin, MSTR wasn't beating out Microsoft. They weren't taking down the other monopolies. So I guess that's kind of fair. Let's see. The final word from Grok is the perception of MSTR as the greatest largely depends on one's investment philosophy, belief in Bitcoin, and how one measures greatness in stocks, whether by performance, innovation, or cultural impact. And I guess there's some tweets. Rajat Soni. I think I've seen him posting about Bitcoin. So I'm just going to scroll through here and see if we see any familiar faces. There we go. I did not scroll over here. I did not know this was going to happen. But this is pretty freaking cool. So Grok is combing Twitter, well, for MSTR posts, and here's Ryan posting back in March. MSTR feels like 2019 Tesla. Here's Jeff, April 23rd. MSTR large index inclusion S&P 500. This is freaking cool as hell. Yeah, I did kind of like glance over this before the video. I wanted to be a little bit surprised by some of it, so I was kind of reading it in full for the first time. But this was a nice surprise. I did not look at these tweets. I forgot that actually Grok listed, you know, uh, some tweets that you can follow and try to, I guess, read what the source material from where it got its opinion here. But this is pretty badass. I will see if I can share this. Yeah, I should be able to share this. For people who don't have Grok, let me know if you can follow the link and if it will still provide you this thing. Either way, I'll just copy the text and put it here in the comments. So, but the other thing, the Grok's pretty fun to play around with images too. I thought these were pretty sweet. My son is a senior in college, and he had a crap load of fun. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get my phone back. He was just generating images and upon images, and Grok was pretty good at it. But that's it for now. I've watched hundreds of hours of options trading videos. I've watched as many or more, just maybe even in sailor interviews alone, but certainly Bitcoin podcasts of all different kinds. And at this point, I'm embarrassed to say that I still probably don't understand the Bitcoin white paper. I probably need to go and do a bunch of statistics research to figure out why all of that shit makes sense. But for now, the fact that it's open source, I'm pretty much outsourcing my understanding of the code itself to people who understand it much better than I. So that is maybe that's a risk that is not always talked about as well, is you can only know so much, and trust not, don't trust, verify has its limitations if you can't verify it yourself because you don't actually understand how to code. But I think I'll leave it there. This was pretty eye-opening to me, and I definitely am going to play around with Grok a little bit more. But apparently, even Grok's Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. So that's it for now. Be good, y'all.